go. Going. It takes a minute usually.
It's funny not to see it like on the other side.
No. Hi. I think we're live now. Yes, we are. Hi, everybody. My name's Ashley Robichaud, and I'm here with Danielle Whalen from Atlantic Wellness. Thanks for joining me, Danielle.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Excellent. So for those of you that don't know Danielle, she's been working in the nonprofit sector for many years and is currently the Director of Clinical Services at Atlantic Wellness here in Greater Moncton. She received her master's in counseling psychology in 2005 and is registered as a Canadian certified counselor as well as a licensed counseling therapist in New Brunswick. She has over 20 years of experience with children, youth, and families in various capacities. She's experienced at working with anxiety, depression, emotional regulation, parenting, and self-esteem. She works from a person-centered approach, and her practice is strength-based, and she believes in working with you to help discover your strengths and personal resources. So we're really pleased and thrilled to have you here today to chat a little bit about what it is you do in Atlantic Wellness. So maybe we can start by you telling me a little bit about yourself and maybe a less formal capacity and about the center.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me. It's super great to be here. It's my first live. I've never done this before. Typically, I'm in front of a group of people, and I love to feed off people's energy and being or one-on-one in an office with the youth. So being live here with you in separate rooms in our houses is different. So, but still exciting. The new norm. So I'm born and raised in Riverview. Like you said, I went to St. Thomas, did my undergrad there in psychology and gerontology, so study of aging. And then after I graduated in '99, I moved out west. Like many of my friends at that time, moved out west, trying to find ourselves. Yeah. I had planned to go for 6 months and stay 12 years. Wow. Married a Riverview guy, moved back home after we had our first baby. And at that time in Calgary, I had done my master's in counseling psychology, and back here in 2007, and then worked for an organization with children with autism, and then over to Atlantic Wellness.
And what year did Atlantic Wellness kind of start, or its inception? I can't remember.
Inception was 2012.
2012, and did you begin right in 2012?
Yes, yeah, I did. Yeah.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about Atlantic Wellness and how your services have been impacted by COVID-19 and the shift you've probably had to take because of the pandemic.
Yes, it was a big shift that we made, but fortunately we were super grateful to get some funding from United Way to get the Zoom platform. So we were able to switch over to telehealth right away. So we did a seamless transition. We met with the team, and the next day we were up and running. So we offer all of our services via telehealth. So we either do Zoom, like we're doing right now, text, phone call. And right now, that's how we're seeing our kids. We had gone back to the office back in August when we were in yellow, and we saw a few youth in the building, the youth that were in crisis at the time, but unfortunately we're back home again.
Yeah, things keep sort of shifting and changing. Yeah. We have to all be sort of on our toes and ready to adapt.
Yeah.
So I guess like pre-COVID, what did your services look like? I imagine like the fundamentals and functionalities are very much the same, but now you're online.
Yeah. The thing about Atlantic Wellness is we have what we call the circle of care. So we provide this wraparound service that allows us to primarily focus on working one-on-one with the youth and providing individual counseling and group counseling. However, we offer all of this variety of services. So we do presentations and workshops in the schools. We do parent coaching, service navigation, outreach therapy, mental health awareness, and education. So all of those things are still happening, just in a different way. We've just pivoted our services. Yeah. So we were fortunate that we were able to do that.
And how are the youth adapting, I guess, from a counseling perspective of receiving the support virtually versus in person? Are you noticing like a big difference between how you connected with them then and how you are today?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was a tough transition for both the therapists and the youth. This is something we've been talking about for quite some time, is to go via telehealth and have this service so that we could connect with youth in remote areas. So we thought, that would be a great idea. However, a lot of us were hesitant to do it because, again, we became therapists so that we could connect in person with our clients in the shared space, right? There's a lot that happens in that moment. So to go telehealth was just super scary for all of us. But once we were forced into the situation, we're like, we just have to do it. So we learned together, really, is what happened ourselves. And with the youth, we just learned together. We had some youth in the beginning on our caseload that were hesitant and maybe declined services in the beginning, but then reconnected and wanted to come back. It took some time. It took some time to figure out what platform worked best, whether it was text or video. Sometimes it took a while for them to turn on their video. But I think once they saw that we too were learning and that we were uncomfortable a little bit too, it was just kind of a learning experience for everybody.
Yeah, it was a massive shift, like the
Oh,
whole
huge
world.
shift. Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that because I think we always characterize the youngest generation as very like comfortable and tech savvy, and
Yeah.
like maybe we'd be meeting them where they're at, but maybe that's not entirely true because you can't fully replace human connection.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest piece, right? Is that when you're in a session with a youth, there's much more happening in a therapeutic session than just the talking, the verbal piece, right? There's all of the nonverbal that's happening, and there's just the energy in the room, and you're just feeding off of each other, right? So doing this in this way is very different until you kind of get to know each other. So we found a lot of our youth, sorry, that we had been with for quite some time, they transitioned quite easily because we already had that therapeutic relationship, right? So they were comfortable with us, and we kind of went through the awkwardness together. It
Ready
was
to
more,
laugh.
yeah, we're just like, oh my gosh, this is silly. I've met a lot of family members. I've met a lot of family pets. They've met my pets. They've heard my Boston Terrier snoring all of the time. Like, it's quite amusing. It definitely. But for more of our new referrals, for our youth that are coming in through the clinic, I think for them, it's just been a bit different. But then some of them too, this is what they know. So they're now meeting with us virtually, and they've never had the opportunity to come meet with us in person. So it's a little bit all over the place, but it definitely has gone better than I think any of us could have thought.
People are afraid of the unknown in this.
Oh, that's it. Change is hard. Change is
So
really, really hard.
And
Yeah,
we were all
for sure.
thrusted into like massive change,
Yeah.
literally overnight.
Yeah.
Have you acquired like new clients during COVID who you've only ever met virtually?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And we have some youth that we're working with that we've never even seen, right? Like their face, like we've been just connecting on text. So which is completely different for us. That's not how typically we've operated before in the past. So that's a big change for us too.
And like really meeting them where they're at, right? Because for them,
absolutely.
That's very, very normal for other connections in their life, I'm sure, especially now where they're home more, they can't see their friends as easily or frequently.
Yeah.
So I guess like shifting gears a little bit, how are kids coping? How are youth? I guess youth, you have 12 to 21, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 12 to 21, yeah. So unfortunately, they're feeling isolated, like we talked about, hopeless, disconnected. I think the changing in the different, like from red to yellow to orange, back to, orange, red and orange or what have you, like all the changes, I think that's been very challenging on them. And I think this last change when we went into red, almost to the year mark of the pandemic, I think it's been really difficult on them. I think they're having a hard time seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and feeling that anything is going to change. And then with the recent announcement of like the canceling of prom and the grad celebrations, like all of those things are taking a toll on them. Those are big milestones that they've been looking forward to for so long.
For years.
Well, yeah. So, and especially too, if you think you're 17 years old, there's a lot that happens in 17, right? Like it's such a short time. I know for myself, I can reflect back on it and be like, yeah, it was fun. It was a really nice celebration, but there's other things to look forward to. But when you're 17, that's it. That's your everything.
School Absolutely. Is your world.
School is your world. Mm-hmm.
Your friends are your world. Your jobs, like everything, and they live in the moment, right? So
they can't think bigger picture. Their brain's not developed to think bigger picture, right? They're like in the moment. So it's been really hard. So feeling really disconnected, unmotivated, just they're struggling. We've seen an increase in suicidal ideation. We've seen an increase in anxiety and depression symptoms. Definitely some maladaptive coping strategies are on the rise. Some of our kids that we've seen consistently prior to the pandemic, and now we're seeing more frequently. So maybe these are youth that had, learned some really positive coping strategies, and we're only coming maybe every 2 or 3 weeks or monthly, are now coming once a week, just even for check-ins, just to kind of reconnect.
And it's a consistency for them, which they don't have a lot of right now, right? Their school could
absolutely.
close, we could roll back phases, they
Yeah.
may lose. Yeah, so it's nice that they have someone they can reach out to.
Yeah,
that
for
they know
sure.
something they can depend on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you say maladaptive coping strategies, I'm not sure, like I have an inkling of what you mean by that, but maybe you could give us a couple of examples.
All right. Maladaptive coping strategies, just shop talk. Sorry.
That's okay.
So just strategies that really are not functional. They're functional, they're not healthy. Let's say an unhealthy coping strategy. So whether it's self-harm or, using drugs and alcohol, maybe going back to a very unhealthy, toxic relationship because you're just wanting to be connected with somebody. Being super distracted and disconnected from family or loved ones, maybe online all of the time, those kinds of things. So things that we would identify as very unhealthy on a long-term basis.
Yeah, and like the example of online, like that's even harder to kind of like go against that grind right now because everything is online, right? Like this is the third time I've been on Zoom, and it's like after work hours, and it's only Wednesday. So I'm sure youth are experiencing some of the same in terms of how they're interacting with people.
Yeah, and another unhealthy piece is like sleep, right? So they're, up all night online, they're, connecting, trying to connect with whoever and whenever, right? Like that kind of idea of like gaming and those sorts of things. Just, it's really difficult, this unstructured time for them, because maybe they were connected in other activities outside of the home, sports, recreational activities, those kinds of things. Now they have a ton of unstructured time that they're trying somehow to navigate.
And they don't necessarily have the tools or skills to do that or know how.
Yeah.
And in the school environment, is that something that comes up a lot, I guess, with their school age youth, like how their school is being impacted?
Yeah,
will look very different for kids this year.
Very, very different.
I say kids, but these are almost young adults, some of them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, middle school age kids, there has been a change for them. But I think the age group that we see the biggest change in school environment is high school, right? And where they're going every other day and they have a different track system, that kind of idea. So that's been tough. That's been really, really tough. We understand why that is, right? And we can respect all of the precautions and for safety reasons, right? And to keep everybody healthy and safe, but at the same time, it's a necessity, but on those tough days, those necessities just feel so unfair. So unfair.
Yeah, and when you're 15, 16, 17, it's really hard to see past something feeling unfair. I remember feeling things were unfair at that age, not a pandemic, but the small, like this isn't small, it has impacted them for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like switching gears to a more positive note, could you maybe share some like tips or hints to parents, or if there's any teenagers out there listening or young adults, coping strategies, or like what could parents do at home, or what should they be watching for with their youth right now?
The biggest one for me that I want to stress is routine, some form of routine for our families, for our youth. Modeling, role model too, right? Like if the youth are not necessarily maybe doing those things, the healthy coping strategies, maybe if a parent, adult in the household could do some of those things, just to even model it with them, invite them to come along with you. They might not come the first 3-6 times you invite them, but still mention it. Hey, I'm going for a walk. You want to come? Let's just grab the dog. Let's go out and get a coffee. Let's just, those kinds of things, get them out of the house. Have some kind of physical activity. really be cautious about sleep routines, hygiene routines, those kinds of things. We want to make sure that those things kind of stay, stay on consistently,
It would be
right?
so easy to just like stay in your jammies. I mean, I remember
Yes.
being a teenager, like I loved it on a Saturday if I didn't have somewhere to be, right?
Yeah.
So I can see where young people, I mean, I think some adults today are struggling with that.
Well, that's it, right? Stay in jammies, but maybe encourage, take a shower, change your jammies, right? Like, just switch it up a little bit. Encourage them to connect with people, connect with family, connect with friends if they're not doing that. Just help them kind of create some boundaries around their online stuff. Eating well, like eating consistently throughout the day, like good healthy meals, right? And not maybe just skipping meals, sleeping in all day. Like it's really, really tough. It's about trying to get them to do any of those things that they might have been doing prior, right? And that's what we want to watch for, is that if they become kind of resistant to doing some of that, or just are losing interest in doing those things, again, given that we have still the pandemic, right? And appreciating how that's impacting them, but still trying to look for some normalcy in their personality, right? And that there hasn't been drastic changes.
And some of passion, hobbies, those things.
Yeah, they look at, things that they enjoyed doing before maybe, or maybe trying something new, maybe encouraging them to do it with you. Family hour is always good. Try to eat a meal or two together during the week, those kinds of things. Yeah.
It is. And I think I was reading, I don't know where it was, because next month is Nutrition Month. I was reading that that's actually a positive that has come out of the pandemic. Families are reporting that they're spending, like they're eating more meals together than pre-pandemic. So that's like a positive. There are some really positive things coming out out of this. I don't know, do you see any shift with some of like your long-term use, that their coping mechanisms have gotten better, or something positive has come out of it for them?
Yeah, absolutely. We do see the silver linings as well too, right? We have youth that are like finding new positive coping strategies, which is awesome. They're actually learning that they are resilient and they can get through really hard times, which is super exciting to celebrate along the way with them too, right? Like they're like, I'm doing okay and I'm managing, right? Or they're able to kind of regulate some of their emotions. So that's really good. And I would imagine families are spending more time together, and eating meals. They're not rushing out to, we did have a break from some of our sports and stuff, but at the same time, like they weren't rushing out to practice and carpooling and all of those other things, those stressors that are on families, right? So
yeah, we've all been forced to slow down, and I think even youth, like they're busy, they're engaged, and those are great things. So when it stops full throttle, it can be a bit of a shock to the system, but there's some really great things that can come out of that too.
Yeah,
so it's nice to hear that some youth are maybe experiencing some positives too. I think people right now have a hard time sometimes seeing the silver lining, especially people that might be struggling.
But they're creating new routines for themselves. They're exercising, they're getting active, they're getting outdoors, they're connecting with family where they hadn't before. So those are all really, really good things.
Are you seeing family relationships for youth like strengthen?
We're seeing a bit of both, right? We're seeing a bit of both. We're seeing a little bit of cabin fever. We're also seeing a little bit of like families. There's, family dynamics, just sharing that tight space together, and that there being conflict there. But then on the other hand, we're seeing all of a sudden now our youth are home. They're not out. They're not out. They're not connecting with their friends, which is where they want to be. But all of a sudden they're home. They're home, and we're finding these moments of times that we can connect with them and watch a show with them, or what have you, right? Or have a meal together. So yeah, it's there are little glimmers of hope there too, right? Like and some positives.
Good things happening.
There are good things happening.
Maybe we couldn't have foresaw or predicted.
Right.
4, 5, 6 months ago.
Sometimes we got to dig deep, right? And look at those things, right? That's what keeps us going.
I think we've all had to do that in the last year from time to time. So I think I asked you this before we kind of went live, but are you seeing any differences? We're a women's organization, BPW. Are you seeing any difference with females that are coming for your services versus young males or the LGBTQ community in terms of need or things they're struggling with?
I really think at this time, youth are struggling, right? I don't really think that I can't really comment that there's more, more males or more females or, with the LGBTQ community. In our perspective, I think it's all, everyone is presenting with similar concerns.
Yeah, and everyone is struggling across the board.
Everyone's struggling across the board, and it's a bit of a roller coaster. We have real highs and lows, right? And like we just talked about some of the silver linings and some of the concerns that we're seeing, but we're doing really well, and then we crash, right? Like we can just only hold on for so long, and then we get this real dip, and then we come back up, right? And we get fatigued. COVID fatigue is real, right? So we get fatigued, and we just don't feel that we can continue doing this. If I have to wear this mask one more time, or if I can't go, and do this and not really understand it, and then the next minute we're like, okay, I got this.
Yeah, and the ebbs and flows that we don't ever really know what's coming, and some people don't operate well without a plan. And right now it's really hard to plan. So you not knowing if they can go do something with their friend on the weekend. Those are things they lived for.
Exactly. Right.
And right now it's more challenging.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit. Do you yourself have a mentor? When I think about counseling, I think of mentorship as being a really big part of that. Or like a female that you like, I guess, inspires you to do the type of work you do.
Okay. Well, I've had many mentors along the way. It's been a long career so far. I feel 20 years of a lot of female mentors actually in the field. My number one always is Brene Brown. So she's phenomenal. I don't know her personally, man, but I'd love to meet her. Absolutely, 100%.
Yes, 100%.
But yes, no, she's wonderful. However, from very, very first job that I ever got in the child and youth field, I had met my first mentor. She will always be my number one. Her name's Madeline Mcdonald. Like as if she's out there listening somewhere, Madeline. She might be, you never know. Yeah. She's out in Calgary, and like I said earlier, I was out there, and I had just graduated with my Bachelor of Arts. I was just finishing up landscaping and working at a cell phone company because I couldn't find work. I couldn't find work in gerontology, study of aging. That's the direction I wanted to go in. I had done that work here in Fredericton. Back home, our senior population was much more than in Calgary. I didn't really think that through when I had decided to move out there. It was a young population. I wasn't able to get work. So there I was selling cell phones. And one of my friends had suggested that she worked at this group home. She thought I would be a great fit. I had an undergrad in psych. Got to meet my boss, Madeline Mcdonald. So I went in Monday morning and gave Madeline Mcdonald my resume and had a little meeting with her and shared with her my story. And she's like, I like you, but you don't have any experience with youth. And I'm like, I don't. I was one, but that's about it. I said, I've been working with seniors for the last little while. And she's like, well, you know what? I'm willing to give you a chance. Can you start tomorrow night at the youth shelter as a relief staff? And I'm like, sure. Why not? Like, why not?
Yeah, take a chance.
So anyway, that was it. That was like the first and last, So
and that's like a gerontology to youth, right? Total 360.
Yeah, total 360. Yes.
It all depends. I think the people we meet, sometimes we just have no idea the impact they'll have on our life, long term and short term.
Yeah.
Or just that one interaction can change our path.
She totally changed my path. I was always really fascinated with the narratives, the stories that the seniors would tell me. I used to run this tea and biscuit or tea and cookie little program at one of the seniors home in Fredericton when I was doing my undergrad. And then when I got to meet these youth that I started working with at the shelter and hearing their stories, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love being part of this. And that's just kind of where the journey started. So she's my first ever big mentor. And then there's been many since then.
And youth always have great stories. I love talking to youth. I feel kind of old now when I try to talk to youth. I'm like, I don't know the lingo. I don't. Facebook's for old people.
Yeah, they just love to teach though. And they love to laugh, right? So if you give the lingo and it's the wrong one, they'll teach you the right one in no time. And they love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it changes all the time. I'm sure
you
see so many cultural and social, like what's cool, what's trendy.
I cannot keep up, and that's, they think it's kind of funny. So
makes you good at your job. Yeah. What's your favorite part of the role? I mean, I think I have an inkling of what you might say.
Yeah, it's the connections with youth. I absolutely love working with youth every single day. They are like, they're just so fun, and they're just, I can't say enough about just having those deeper connections with youth.
Yes. Yep. And I love talking to young people. They just always have a different perspective, and it surprises me some of the things that they understand and know that we completely sometimes like miss the point or don't think of.
Absolutely, 100%. Their perspectives are so wonderful, and I think sometimes as adults we can kind of get jaded and just our life experiences, and they're just so. I think just because they don't see that long-term consequences, they're in the moment, and they're free to just share their ideas, and I don't know, I just love it.
Yeah, and I think some of us lose that as we get older.
Yeah, I think that's
not everybody, but it's harder you have to resist it a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe not so jaded, but just our experiences, right? Like they're just,
they shape us, right?
Yeah, they definitely do.
As a female leader in our community, what would you say was maybe a barrier that you've faced in your career as a woman? I do think you probably are in a more female-dominated industry, so your perspective is interested.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I am in a more female-dominated role and career. So I really think, and I thought about this question long and hard, I think the biggest barrier, the biggest thing that comes up for me is being a mom, raising a family, and working in the nonprofit sector, and how much time and energy that takes, and how much commitment, because it's more than counseling, right? We're running an organization, right? So it's a charitable organization that does a ton of community work too. Oh, you're frozen. Oh, are you back?
Oh, I'm not frozen on my end.
Oh, it was frozen on my end.
Oh,
yeah, it was frozen on my end. Okay, so
I don't know.
No, so
I think a good freeze on Zoom is just socially acceptable now.
Okay, good. So just the commitment and the community, and then also I have a private practice as well. So just being an entrepreneur too. So I think it's really just trying to fit all of those roles all together, and to feel like I'm doing all of them at my best. Right. And just sharing, and then just being a woman myself, and just my needs too, and just being, me, Danielle. So.
And as women, I think we always feel like we need to be on or doing our best all the time. I think that's something I don't know. I know that's something I struggle with, that I could always do better.
Yeah.
And I'm probably generally doing the best that I can at that time. And we always have so many balls in the air.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to juggle.
Yeah.
I had another question. It's left me, but that's okay. Specific to that, but not a big deal. How can people help? Like, I guess Atlantic Wellness, what can they do? Like you said, you're a nonprofit, you're a charitable organization, and that means you're probably fundraising and trying to get visibility in the community, which has probably changed a lot as well during COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a charitable organization, like you said, and we run solely on donations and fundraising and grants. So all of our funding comes from just the hard work out in the community, right? And people believing and supporting us. So really, and the awareness, just being able to be on here tonight to talk about our organization, just being out on social media. And like you said, like right now, things are a bit different for us. We can't necessarily be in the community as much as we would like to. But yeah, so.
Yeah, it's harder to kind of be seen right now,
Yeah.
But Moncton is such a phenomenal place.
Yes.
There's just so much support for one another that I see people supporting various causes almost on a daily basis, despite the fact that the traditional ways of doing that aren't happening right now.
Yeah.
I do have a question. I think maybe some people that don't know a lot about Atlantic Wellness. So we said youth service, youth between 12 and 21.
Yes.
Is it free counseling services?
Yes. Yeah. All of our services are free.
Okay, that's phenomenal. And is it based on referral, self-referral? Like, how does that process work if someone's listening today and is thinking of someone they know or love?
Yeah. No, it's all self-referral. So we accept referrals from, it could be the youth themselves, a parent, a guardian, schools, physicians, you name it, right? So as long as they can connect with us, we now run a mental health clinic that operates very similar to like a medical clinic. So it runs every Monday. So you call the morning of. Our phone lines open at 8:30 and they're open from 8:30 to 2. And when you call, you speak with somebody, Meredith, who will kind of do a quick screening, send you all the paperwork, and you can schedule an appointment with a counseling therapist later that day.
Wow.
So that is our intake process as well right now. So during that time, you meet with a therapist. Maybe it's just one session that you need, right? Or maybe it's a booster session. You've seen a therapist before. Your file is inactive, but you just want to kind of come back and just reconnect. Or you just need the one session, like I said, or maybe you meet with the counseling therapist and you decide, you know what, might be a good idea for you to be assigned to somebody on our team and to do some more work.
So someone's assigned to stay with the same
therapist. Yeah.
I assumed, but and is it generally like, is there a long wait for youth right now? Like, how does that process usually look? I know there's ebbs and flows, I can imagine.
Yeah. Right now, to be assigned a therapist long-term, we're looking at about a 2 to 3 month wait list. Okay. However, that clinic is accessible. So if you come to the clinic and you do the intake work and you meet with that counseling therapist and you guys decide that it's best to go onto the wait list and wait to be assigned, even if something's kind of going on that's a little bit more immediate, and while you're waiting, you can still access the clinic
on the Mondays. So there's like a regular. That's amazing. That's fantastic, and something people probably don't know unless they're seeking it out. How many therapists are you? Like, what's your team like?
So we have 4 therapists, 4 counseling therapists, and we also have 2 to 3 interns come on every 9 months. So I offer clinical supervision for master level students that are coming in to do their counseling therapy degree. So they stay with us for 9 months so they can carry a caseload. Yeah.
Okay, that's really great. So you also are sort of doing that training, teaching piece. So you're probably a whole other conversation around supporting women, probably, and men, but probably a lot of women that are building their careers and starting in the field, which is, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, so at least we've seen at least 30 students in the last 9 years. We've hosted 30 internships. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So are those individuals working remotely now, I guess?
Yes. Yeah. So with our team,
And then you have your executive director and all those.
Yes. Yeah, we have our executive director, and then we have our funds development officer, Julie Asron, and then Meredith Martel is our service navigator, parent coach. And we've just now moved her into a position of community engagement just to kind of meet the needs of what's been going on here now, right? So just kind of get us more connected to the community in a different way.
Yeah. Parenting coach. So do you offer services to parents as well?
We do. So if the youth is registered with us as a client and seeing one of the counseling therapists, we do offer some parent coach sessions as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So a parent can see Meredith 6 times within the year, and just, to have that additional support and some of those strategies that the therapist is working on with the youth that might be beneficial for the parents as well to kind of know, so that we can work collaboratively together. It's all part of that wraparound service.
Okay, that's really cool. I'm learning. I mean, I know of Atlantic Wellness and have a pretty good scope of what you did, but I've learned some things tonight that I didn't know. So hopefully others are as well. And where are you located? I know it's been a while since you moved, but when hopefully things are back to a normal-ish state, are you in the downtown area now?
Yeah, we're at 225 Loop Street.
Okay, because I know you were once in Riverview.
Yes, and that cute little stone house. Yeah.
And you outgrew your space.
Yeah, we did outgrow the space quite quickly, and we're outgrowing this one too over on Loop Street, but we'll just see where time takes us.
Times are changing, so
I know.
Services. I'm just going to take a quick look to see if we had any comments or questions on our event, if you don't mind. Sometimes
For
I forget
sure.
to do that when I'm hosting these.
Yep.
We'll see what comes up. Just a couple people saying you're doing a great job.
Oh, that's probably my team.
But that's just anybody out there listening or anybody that watches this later, feel free to pop in and ask any questions you might have of Danielle, and she can take a look later.
For sure.
I think that really is really kind of all I wanted to kind of chat about. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to share about Atlantic Wellness, youth today.
I think we covered it all. I feel like I don't have much else to say. But
that's okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what we didn't talk about, but I think we kind of did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I wore my pink today because I knew today was Pink Shirt Day. So.
Yes. And I had mine on earlier, but I changed for this interview.
That's okay. I don't even like myself in pink really, but I wanted to make sure to support the cause. And
yes,
turns out I don't own a lot of pink. So
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did, and it's always so great to be able to talk about Atlantic Wellness. It's just I feel it's a great service to offer youth in the community. And I think sometimes because I've been part of it for so long, I think that everyone is aware of the services, and it's just a great opportunity to come on here and say like, hey, we're here. So
and I think there's still a gap, right? There's a gap between public, accessible services through the provincial government and public health, and the time it takes to maybe access those. So organizations like yourself help fill that gap, especially where there's immediate needs sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I always love the opportunity to share with what we're doing over at community. Excellent.
Well, thank you. I hope you have a nice night.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.